Hello, welcome pen friends. Welcome to another singles ink profile. Today is Diamine Safari. I love this ink. So let's get started and maybe you'll love it too. Who knows? Let's put it into the bath test there and let that work. This really took me by surprise how much I love this ink. But I do. So I wanted to just show you real quick. The last profile I did was Roaring Klinger Cassia, and that one was very typical and it all washed away. Super easy too to get out of my pens. So that was really, it got an A. I just didn't put it on the card yet. So let's do that. There we go. Okay, and let's hop right into the Rhodia Gold Book where I start everything. Each time I go to explore an ink. Wow, that's cool. I have a theory that we're going to still be able to read this ink, but I'm not, I'm not sure how much of the green will be there. So, okay, and here we are right here. I put it on a little piece of Tomoe River paper up here, and you can see it's got quite a bit of neat interest and shading there. This turned out to be a 150th anniversary ink of theirs, and I found it quite a few places. Jet Pens, Amazon, that was weird. The listing at Amazon said $8.70 plus $6 shipping. That was an oddity because it was running around 15 something everywhere else here in the States. Now I know that varies. I've heard from viewers that varies a lot in the United Kingdom and over your way. So, so here it is in the broad nib, and then everything else was in the fine nib. And my first impressions were really favorable because it shaded right away. I started to see shading immediately. Even in the fine nib, I saw some shading, and we'll see that in the other samples. So my first impression was just really powerful of it. Let's see. And, I had a tiny sample of this, which I had used, and then someone sent me this sample, and I have lost the swatch that I initially did, like the coloring index, has the initials of the person. So I apologize because I've momentarily spaced in my mind who sent that. But thank you, because I'm sure you know who you are, and that's embarrassing. But okay, here's the chromatography. It was quite interesting. It's got a lot of kind of light greenish yellow and a lot of gray, and that's why, and the line that I made kind of stayed gray. That's why I think we're going to be able to read it even after it being, taken a bath. And then, okay, over here I played around with dry times, and I don't know how scientific this is. I came out with 10 seconds on the fine nib and almost, around 20 seconds on my broad nib. But that broad Yo-O nib on the Serendipity is a very wet writer, so I don't know that would be the same in a regular. I just don't know for sure. I'd have to test that out like in a TWSBI to see if it was different. But anyway, there you have it. Now, we got some little notebooks to look at. We've got the little Amax Spiral notebook from Days Ago. And here it is. I thought, it was a funny deal here, so I re-dipped it and tested again and realized that with the fine nib, I might have been kind of running on empty in that fill, which didn't really make a lot of sense, but I did it anyway. I did it again. So it did come out darker, a lot darker after that second dip. Still had shading in both samples in that broad nib and then in the fine nib here, but I wasn't as happy with how my little test came out on this paper, but it didn't bleed through or anything. I just felt like this might not be the best paper for this ink, but that could also be just me. So don't even, you'd have to get a sample and test it, I think. So then, and I thoroughly got confused when I hopped over here onto CVS Caliber paper, because this is the paper that usually flattens ink out. And it did fine on here, although I do see that it did drop down quite a bit from the Rhodia Gold Book in shading and everything. It looks lighter here. They did a nice spectacular little swatch in the corner there. And then here it is in the broad nib and the fine nib. Still plenty dark enough, I think, to see coming out of the nib, even on this paper. tiny bit that it tried to seep through, but it wouldn't even bother me. I'll be able to do the other side with the next ink just fine. So it wasn't super impressive on here either, but the rest of the papers, I think we'll see a big difference. Okay, so this is Leuchtturm 1917 dot grid paper in a pocket size, or I guess it's A6 size. Here it is. And it just, yeah, it showed nice on there, and it did some shading, drastic shading actually, but it's hard to capture. And then here it is in the fine nib. Let's see if that went through. No, not even on the painted on part. So that was nice. Okay, and there's something coming up too. I'll wait to show you, but something else that surprised me. So this is Live Notes by Pen Gallery, and it's 68 GSM Tomoe River paper. I'm gonna fold that so we're just looking at the ink for today. I think that's easier. There it is, and I liked the shading on it, and I thought it performed really well on here. And then here it is in the fine nib. So we've got broad and fine, and lots of shading in the broad nib. A little more subtle in the fine nib. And it did not go through, so it was great. It's excellent. Okay, we're going to keep that handy. I've gone onto the back of my Tomoe River paper 52 gram, and because I just want to conserve paper. And here it is. It did make a nice showing there in the corner where I put it on, and lots of shading on this paper in the broad nib. Not so much in the fine nib. At least I wasn't detecting it. Let's turn it over. It did bleed through on this one, whereas it didn't on the 68 GSM. So let's look at them side by side if we can, a little bit here. I liked it on both paper. I have to say the white kind of shows it off a little bit better to my eye, but it was perfectly pretty on the ivory too. So on the whatever, I guess it's cream, but it's definitely, this one here is not white. But gee, that was nice on both. Okay, so hopping over to Clairfontaine 90 gram French roll. I had room for that ink on the bottom here, and wow, it just shaded really nice on here on the Clairfontaine. It was great, and especially in the broad nib. And it looked good in the fine nib, and I saw more shading here than on some of the other papers. Absolutely no bleed through there. Okay, and then Rhodia, Rhodia 80 gram dot grid pad. I had to go on the back of that too. We filled up the front. Here it is in the broad nib and the fine nib. And I thought it looked great on here. We see quite a bit of shading. At least I do at the tops of the letters, and you know, a variety, like a great variation of how dark it was coming out. All the way through there, even the box. You could see in the corner it kind of got dark, and on those letters it rotates kind of. And then, you know, it just looks fine in the fine nib. You can still read it real good. No bleed through whatsoever. Okay, then I added a paper this time. I added one that I'm working with on a special project that you'll see more of on Sunday. I'm working with this paper that was sent by a pen friend. It's Hewlett-Packard Laser Premium 32-pound paper. And it's quite interesting. It's really thick. And here's this Diamine Safari in the broad nib and the fine nib on this paper. It's quite impressive. Looked really good, and it flows good. It's not dry at all. I would say if you compare it to Clairfontaine, which really is the only one that compares in thickness and smoothness, gee, you know, you're hard pressed to see to critique it really. It really does look nice on this. And I've had this paper quite a while, and I really just started playing with it because I've started to catch up with some things. So of course it didn't bleed through at all, and it's quite interesting. But I think you'll be interested in the project I'm working on. I'm going to share that with you on Sunday. Okay, and this is Georgia Pacific 20-pound copy paper. We go to the opposite extreme because I have never handled thicker, smoother paper than this 32 HP premium here, but this is the opposite end. This is the thinner, cheaper paper. So I was impressed though. This ink behaved pretty well on this paper. There may be a little bit of feathering, but it's not much. And when we flip it over, I think you'll be surprised too. So here it is in the broad nib and the fine nib. And when we flip it over, it barely shows through seeping on the painted part, and I can't detect a single bleed through, not even a dot. And I was just stunned, like, that's interesting. And it appears dark enough, like it wasn't the end of a fill or anything for that serendipity. And really, I saved out the last, okay, I'd filled this one up. So these are some other inks that we've been doing. And this is the typical display on the back. You know, it bleeds through quite a bit. And I think we had like one recent ink, maybe a Birmingham yellow here, this marmalade that didn't do as badly. But gosh, that's just amazing. It was quite noticeable. So I thought I'd bring that to your attention. I know there's someone who's looking for, you know, inks that'll still do okay on the cheaper copy paper. So let's stop in. Okay, that's what I thought. Let's stop in here and see our experiment. You could still read it. Now, it's not pretty, and it's not green anymore, but, you know, if it got wet, I guess it wouldn't be a total loss. So, all right, let's get out that comparison panel. I've been looking forward to showing you this. Need to try to get it in the frame. Okay, so right in the middle, Diamine Safari. Now, we've got some others that are probably going to wind up being featured before too long as a profile. We've got Noodler's Army Green and Birmingham Field Tourniquet. I think those are both in the running for possible profiles. And then in the past, we've profiled Tasha Olive Green. But when I went back and I looked at this in the Rhodia Gold book, it really looked different coming out of the nib. So as much as you could say it's relatable on the panel, it's way far away. But I have a feeling that the Birmingham ink and the Noodler's ink here, that when we get it, that those are going to look more alike. I'm not sure. And then the rest of this is really just all I have to compare with, and they're far, far away. Monteverde Olivine is quite a bit darker, and well, a lot darker, and it's even darker coming out on this screen with the camera and the lighting and everything else. Got a lot of natural light today though. And then we go to the brighter, more green down here, so it gets kind of crazy. Diamine Classic Green somewhere in the middle, not quite so dark and definitely not bright. So this was really an interesting panel to do. I should probably grab that Rhodia Gold book and show you that how much the Tasha Olive Green was different. I did tab it. So Tasha Olive Green coming out of the nib just didn't really compare at all with Diamine Safari, and that was a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought it might have more in common. Let me flip back to where we are now. Let's see. Didn't leave the bookmark in, of course. Okay, maybe I can keep my finger there. So there's today's Safari, and then this one, and it looks greener rather than that the look we get here, which is the Army Green is a good descriptor, I think, and Safari is too. It makes you think of a safari. But so there was no comparing, and I was surprised. I thought, oh, that's going to be like that Tasha ink. No, not quite. So this one may surprise us too. When we get it in a nib, it may not. You know, I believe these two are the most similar. Noodler's Army Green and Diamine Safari. So, okay, just one more thing to show you for today, and that is the visual journal. Wasn't a total bomb, but oh boy, here it is. And you know, I do see some lighter green coming out, and it went berserk. It looks like I tried to have a floating tree or something, but things just didn't quite work out. But I did get a chance to see, I liked this part. That was cute there. And I liked how it edged and got real dark there. And then over here, it just pretty much, you know, when I put the ink down, it didn't move the way some of them do. So that was really interesting to me. Like, some of the inks, you put it down and immediately you get something. You know, well, you had to really try to encourage it, and it didn't quite work. So it probably isn't super suited for this technique, except that I do like the fact that you go from dark to almost yellow and light green. You get a variety, so that's nice. All right, so that's today's ink. And meanwhile, I'm still tallying votes. People are still voting. And you still have some time on that, as I'm filming this anyway. The deadline for the votes for the Viewer's Choice panel is July 22nd. That's a Monday at noon Texas time. So you still got a few days left to vote. And I appreciate all the votes that have come in. But how about this ink? What do you think of Diamine Safari? I think it's a darn nice ink. It is a little bit more expensive than the regular Diamine ink, but it's that special anniversary series, I guess is why. And it still is quite nice. So let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Sorry about that. I guess I've got some dryness in my throat this morning. And I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.